Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds, and welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. We are recapping a week's worth of nerdy news from the Shire to Jakku and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me, as always, is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
Well, as always, we got a ton of stuff to talk about, and I guess limited time to do it, just because it's 9:30 on a Sunday. So let's get at it.
Yeah, let's get at it. Actually, it was kind of a light week. Like there was like a good amount of news, but not anything that was like there was no giant, there's no Spider-Man trailer where we have to stop the show to watch it, or anything like that. No major, huge casting announcement, but definitely quite a bit to cover, including some sad news that we found out today that Ed Asner passed away at the old age of 91. A beloved actor and voiceover artist. Nerds around the world should be grateful to him for voicing such characters as Roland Daggett on Batman the Animated Series, J. Jonah Jameson in the original 90s Fox Spider-Man cartoon. He was Granny Goodness in Superman the Animated Series and also reprised that role in Justice League Unlimited. He did a voice in Spectacular Spider-Man, voice in Young Justice, Teen Titans Go, a bunch of Star Wars video games, and even had a small part, in a live-action small part, in, I believe it was season 2 of Doom Patrol. Yep. So he will be greatly missed. Wonderful actor and everything that he was in. And just want to give a shout out to Ed Asner. Thoughts be with his spirit and his family.
And he will always be Santa Claus to me.
Yeah. My wife's favorite movie is Elf. I see him as Santa Claus every single year.
Yeah, I think he played. I think I was reading when we were looking up stuff for this that he played Santa Claus like 5 different times. So.
Really? Wow. And still not typecast as Santa. Still an elaborate career outside of his Santa contributions.
He's not just Santa. He's a giant nerd too. So.
Yeah, so much more. You got to wonder when someone hands him a script that says, "Yeah, you're voicing a character named Granny Goodness." Those you got to be like, "What the hell is this? Like, what am I doing here?"
Yep.
You're like, "Well, how much getting paid for this?" Okay, sure.
All right, sounds great.
Who knows? Maybe he was a big Jack Kirby Fourth World comic book fan. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe he was into it. I don't know. But anyway, Ed Asner, you'll be missed for sure around the world. But moving into some nerdy news, starting off with some DC stuff, we got a quote from the cinematographer on the Flash movie that is deep into development. Henry Brom is his name. And he was asked how it was going. He was doing an interview for some other movie that he's been working on or some other project. He was asked how the Flash is going so far. And Steve, am I all right for you? You're like pixelating and frozen. Am I frozen or are you frozen?
You're kind of coming through the same as what you're saying I'm coming through as, so I don't know.
Okay, great. Cool. Can you hear me at least?
Yes. Yeah, your audio is coming through.
Okay. Okay, then who cares? All right. Henry Brom, cinematographer of The Flash, asked how The Flash was going. He said, "The Flash is going great. I think all the filmmakers are really keen that the technical complexity of the storytelling doesn't get in the way of just good quality filmmaking. Hopefully, I don't think it will ever come across as a superhero movie." What? "It will come across as a movie. We need to be making great, great, great films that happen to have superheroes who have truthful characters behind them with all the character flaws that we find in humanity." He moves on to say, "I think the movie is a massive scope, and I'm lucky to be able to work on movies that I would like to go and see. I'm not really interested in comic book movies. I'm interested in movies that take me on a journey, an emotional journey, and a visual journey." So, Henry Brom, cinematographer on The Flash. His other most recent project that just came out, cinematographer on The Suicide Squad. Before that, amongst many other projects he's been involved with, also worked with James Gunn on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So for somebody who claims to not be interested in superhero movies or not like making superhero movies, he certainly seems to be involved with a handful of them. But I do understand what he means about wanting to make character-driven stories that just happen to have superheroes in them. I think that's a good approach because I think we're past the all flash and no substance 90s level superhero movie. I'm not going to name specifics, but they're out there for sure. And we do want a little bit more character and a little more drama. Steve, what do you think about this quote, and how does it make you feel about the Flash?
I mean,
if anything,
that's always what, like you said, that's what they're shooting for all these. And it's kind of, it's why the original Iron Man was as good as it was. It's why Into the Spider-Verse was as good as it was. It's why a lot of these movies...
It's why the entire MCU works at all.
Right, exactly. Because they're making good movies that happen to have the characters we love in them. It's not like they're, I'm sitting here wearing an X shirt, there's a reason why some of those are extremely derided. There's a reason why... X-Men Origins Wolverine is one of the worst things I've ever seen, but I also kind of love it. There's some parts that are a good movie, and there's other parts that are just like, you phoned this one in. Hugh Jackman and Liev Schreiber cannot carry the rest of this mess.
Right. Right. Yeah. Even I was just actually, for the first time in a really long time last night, I started watching the Sam Raimi original Spider-Man movie.
Yep.
I haven't seen any of those movies in a really long time, and like with the hype of the new movie, I was like, I should rewatch all the Spider-Man movies just to kind of refresh myself. And I love that movie. It's definitely feels a little dated now, not having seen it in a long time. And I was just really seeing Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker doesn't have a ton of dialogue in at least the first half of that movie. He's reacting to other characters. He does a lot of just like, kind of like eyeball movements and like looking around. Because part of that is because he's playing a shy nerd.
He does the Tobey Maguire face.
Yeah, but like they show you that he's a nerd. And that's kind of it. Like they're like, yeah, this kid's he's smart and he's a nerd. You're supposed to feel bad for him because the bus leaves him behind. But they don't really give him any time to like talk about how he feels. He clearly has a crush on Mary Jane, but there's no like real like, they're not diving into the character of Peter Parker in ways that might come down the road later in other Spider-Man movies. Anyway, I thought it was interesting, and like we're saying now, we're at a place where we expect to be connected to these characters through being able to relate to them on human levels and relate to situations that they're in or whatever, more than just them having a cool power or something.
Right.
And I think if that's what they're doing with The Flash, that's exceptional, because this movie, everything we know about it, is going to be a lot of bells and whistles, running through into other dimensions, even if he wasn't doing that, just the fact that he's a speedster and, running through the Speed Force and all that, that's going to be a huge effects movie alone. So not only are they showing us that, they're also showing us him running into other dimensions, and Supergirl is in this movie. So there's going to be, there's lots of VFX that are going to be happening in and around these characters. So that he is saying that it feels like a character-driven film, I think is impressive. And I hope that it is accurate. I hope that feeling stays through the rest of production and the editing process, because we all know things can get chopped out or changed, all the way up to release.
Yeah.
But for such an effects heavy movie, for him to be saying stuff like that gives me, I'm very excited about this movie no matter what, but the fact that he's adding this dimension to it makes it even better, especially knowing that they are handling the first on-screen appearance of Michael Keaton as Batman in 40 years or whatever, right. Like that, you have to put some weight behind that character in order to pull it off.
Yeah, and it's gonna be it's weird to me, like, and I'm off on a tangent, but like all of these companies are hitting this multiverse stride at the same time.
I know, yeah.
It's weird. Like, you hit Into the Spider-Verse, which nailed it. Like, we were literally talking earlier about that might be, it's the best Spider-Man film, and it might be my favorite superhero film out there. It's
top
just
3 for me, easy.
Yeah. There's no flaw. I mean, I'm sure there's flaws, but like, there's no flaws in the thing.
I don't know about that. I don't think there are.
I don't know. Yeah. It's like, it's awesome every time I watch it. And they go from that to, all right, Marvel's, we started with Loki, we're hitting it with Spidey, we're going into Strange. Things are going to get weird. With DC, you've got the Flash is going to make things weird. Like,
yep.
Like DC came out and said, we have a connected universe. We have a multiverse. I don't know if they use those words exactly, but it's like...
I think they did, yeah.
Yeah, it's confusing that... And I don't know if it's keeping up with the Joneses or what, but, like, you wouldn't think that, oh, Marvel's starting this multiverse thing where they're going to confuse the hell out of all their people that are watching these movies. You know what? We should do the same thing. Let's just let's make everybody confused with everything.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm trying to figure out. I guess Marvel announced that they're making a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness before DC announced all their worlds were connected. DC basically came out and said everything that you've ever seen us do exists in a multiverse, and they're all connected, and we're going to show you that they're all connected, and they've done that via the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on the CW. They're going to do it with the Flash. But I guess Marvel did stake that claim in, hey, we're doing a multiverse thing, movie-wise. I think DC did it first, comic book-wise, but but it's I can see why both companies would want to do it, because it gives them the ability to do more with all their characters. I mean, that's why comic books do it. That's why you can buy Spider-Man Life Story and Amazing Spider-Man and read two different, similar but different takes on the character or whatever. You can buy monthly Batman, or you can buy Batman White Knight or Dark Knight Returns that take place in other continuities and in their own stories. Like, oh yeah, we want to be able to do stuff like that, but also keep doing the thing that we're doing. Yeah, bring in the multiverse.
I can say I do want, absolutely now that we've seen Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, I would love to see Alfred Molina voicing Spectacular Spider-Man, or Superior Spider-Man. Where,
that'd be cool.
where Ock took over his body. That would just
what? If there's a second season of What If,
there you go.
I can't. I feel like it would be hard for them. I don't know. Would it be hard for them? I guess we don't know what the state of the multiverse is going to be after this. Is Alfred Molina as Doctor is going to be in the main universe after whatever thing collapses or they solve the problem? We don't know we don't know how easy that's going to be, I guess. Like, there's a universe in which it probably would be easier to do an animation or what if, but depending on what happens in that movie, if Willem Dafoe and whoever else, Thomas Hayden Church, is going to end up in the MCU, I guess then it might be a little bit easier to do for sure. My guess is that I'm not sure. I would like to know when and why Marvel decided to open their universe. Was it just to branch out and do other stories? Was it because they knew they had did Sony want to do that? Was it based on the success of Into the Spider-Verse that they wanted to do live action Spider-Versal things, and they were like, well, we can do a multiverse thing. Okay, because there was a time when the MCU lost the ability to use Spider-Man. There was a panic for like 2 weeks when we didn't think we were going to get Tom Holland in the MCU anymore, but Tom Holland and people from Sony came out and said, hey, we have ideas for these, and this is going to... Tom Holland even said what they were going to do was a really good idea, so I think we're in good hands moving forward as much as I want to be a part of the MCU.
Yep.
So I got to wonder, like, did Sony want to do a multiverse movie? And when they made that deal again, was it like, yeah, we can do this, but we want to make a multiverse movie, so figure out how to make that happen? Was that part of the deal? And Marvel was like, okay, well, we can do a multiverse thing with Doctor Strange or whatever, I gotta wonder if that was part of it. I think DC did it because they know that it's getting stronger with every movie, but we all know for a while there, their connected universe was kind of holding that together with very thin threads.
Yeah,
and they were like, well, we can maybe cheat a little bit if we say there's a multiverse. Yeah, it's like, let's like cheat. It's a multiverse, so we're doing different stuff. Which is fine, and I'm excited that we get Michael Keaton as Batman again. So I think they probably both came to it in different ways, but I think it's also a natural thing for both companies to want to do because it expands their ability to do those things.
So
sorry, did you have something else to say about
I was going to toss something out to you because we talked about the trailer last week for No Way Home.
Yeah.
And what we saw in the trailer was confirmation of the pumpkin bomb and of Dr. Octopus, as we mentioned.
Pumpkin bomb, meaning, for those who don't know, the weapon of the Green Goblin. We're assuming that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin from the original Spider-Man trilogy is going to show up in this movie as well. There's also rumors that other villains, Sandman or whatever, are going to show up from that.
So Jamie Foxx was shown as, has said in the past that he is in this movie as Electro.
He has said that he is signed on as Electro, yes.
Yep. And we may or may not have seen Sandman, but
yeah.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Who are your other two for the Sinister Six?
You're saying if there is a Sinister Six in this movie, who should the other two be? Goblin, Dr. Octopus,
Electro,
Sandman,
and Sandman.
Electro. So that's 4. If it's me,
yep.
If it's me, I'm bringing in Michael Keaton as Vulture, and curveball, Tom Hardy as Venom.
Ooh, going right for it.
Going right for it. If that's me,
right?
That they, you know, and
I think we've long established that that we really want to see Spidey in a Venom situation, like that Tom Hardy Venom verse.
Does anybody not want to see Spider-Man fight Venom? That's like the thing. Like, Venom shouldn't exist without... Okay, this is a whole... You know what? We're going to save this conversation for like 2 stories from now when we're actually talking about it. So let's... But that's why. Who would you bring in if you're completing the Sinister Six?
So without going full Venom, just because I was thinking of they're not going to do that. Michael... Cause that's what got me thinking about it, was like Michael Keaton, definitely. Like, his Vulture was very good.
And he's established in the world, so bring it on.
And then I can't remember if he's ever been a member of it, but since Donald Glover is established as Aaron Davis, go with Prowler.
Yeah, that would be good.
So
that'd be good.
Or
I saw people online speculating that like we're all busy thinking that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to show up as Spider-Man. Wouldn't it be amazing if they gave us a live-action Miles and we weren't even expecting it?
Yeah.
And yes, that would be great. And certainly if they're doing that, if they want to bring in more Miles-centric villains or whatever, then Prowler would be perfect. Yes.
Yeah. And I still, hot take, and I'm putting this on the pod, I don't want to see the other Spider-Man in there. I don't know why. It's just, there's something I just don't. Everybody wants to see Garfield and Maguire, and I'm just like, I really don't. Like, I don't at all.
I know, man. I have mixed feelings about it. If that happens, am I going to think it's cool? Yeah, I am going to think it's cool. I posted an article. We kind of touched on this last week when we were actually talking about the trailer. If you follow us on Facebook, I posted an article. I think it was from Collider, somebody talking about their feelings about the Spider-Man trailer and how it looks cool and it looks fun, but it looks like a lot of, oh, hey, they're giving me that thing that I remember, and oh, hey, I already like that thing. They're giving me that thing that I already like. And that doesn't necessarily make for good filmmaking. It makes for, like we were saying about what the Flash could be in lesser hands, bells and whistles, a Flash and no substance. No pun intended there. But, and I kind of agree with that. Like, I don't need Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to be in this movie. I don't even need, like, I said this exact thing last week. I would prefer it if we were just meeting a new Dr. Octopus. That, Tom Holland's Dr. Octopus, Tom Holland's Green Goblin. I want to see his version of these villains. And yeah, it's cool seeing Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus, but I honestly can't say that I'm as excited about this as I would be if it was a new take on that character,
right?
Or a new take on Green Goblin.
Well, now at the same time, though, who's to say it's not? Like, we're all assuming that that's part of the multiverse thing, but what if it's just that's Doc Ock and he happens to, like, Alfred Molina's portraying him, but he's characteristically different or something along those lines. We already know Electro is not going to be the same Electro.
That's true.
Garfield movies.
That's true. Because Jamie Foxx said, "I'm not going to be blue this time." Right. That was in a since deleted tweet or post or something. He said. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But we're talking about Spider-Man a lot when this story was supposed to be about the Flash. And one thing I do want to say about the Flash, because we will be talking about Spider-Man again in probably about 5 minutes, so we can table any more further discussions that we may have about that.
Well,
the fact that this
Henry... the next one may branch off too.
Yeah, you're right. 10 to 15, maybe 20. Henry Brim talking about this gives me hope for this movie. I already have a lot of hope for this movie because the filmmakers are great and the character is great, and come on, Michael Keaton is Batman. But that's actually the same thing that we're kind of talking about with Spider-Man. It's like, why does Spider-Man bringing in all these villains that I already know, why does that bother me more than seeing Michael Keaton as Batman again in The Flash? Because that's the same kind of thing. They're giving us something we already have seen before. And I don't know. I guess I get the feeling that I don't know. For some reason I get the feeling that we don't know who the bad guy of The Flash is going to be. And I get the feeling that they are hiding a lot of what the movie is actually going to be about. And yes, Batman's going to be a part of it. Michael Keaton's Batman's going to be a part of it. But we don't know the full extent. And it really seems like Spider-Man No Way Home seems to be all about, look at all of these things. It seems to be built around the fact that they are bringing in all these other characters that we know, and not necessarily using them to create a new story. Or, I don't know. I don't know what I'm really talking about. What I was going to say about, if anyone out there knows what the point I was about to make, send us an email, drop us a line. Finish my sentences for me, but I think you maybe know where I was going with that. Just feels different.
Yeah.
But Henry Brom, who has worked on the Suicide Squad and is now working on Flash, I think I'm excited about that it brings more more connectivity, I guess, to future DC films. I feel like we talked about how Suicide Squad felt a lot like it borrowed from the tone and characterizations of Birds of Prey. Now we're using the same cinematographer in Suicide Squad, and I really thought Suicide Squad looked gorgeous. I think it was shot very well, and there was a lot of really impressive cinematography in that. Yeah. If this guy's responsible for that, and he's bringing that to something that will most likely be so visually spectacular, or should be, we're expecting it to be very visually impressive, the Flash and his powers, then I'm excited for that, and I'm excited for maybe just taking the feel of what we've seen before in Suicide Squad and moving it to another film. Any interconnectivity like that, I think, for DC bodes them well moving forward, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a lot more stronger connections like that, whether it be literal on the screen or behind the camera.
Yeah, this could be the piece that has kind of been, that they've been waiting for, to tie a lot of the I don't want to say missteps, but stuff that completely disjointed X from Y. This may be the piece that kind of ties it all together.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about how we don't know what's going to happen at the end of Spider-Man and what that universe is going to look like. Right. Definitely the same for DC and the Flash. He's opening up multiverses. We don't know if there's going to be universes that collide. Is Michael Keaton going to be in the main continuity afterwards? There's been rumors about that he's going to be the main Batman going forward, which I kind of don't want at all. I want him to stay in his little Tim Burton pocket universe. But we don't know. We don't know if there's anything that's going to be erased, if there's things that are going to be changed. And like I said, the Flash, I think, is going to be a very important movie for the DCEU moving forward, and I'm very excited to see more of it and learn more about it and eventually see that movie. Yep. But that was our DC section, even though we spent half of it talking about Spider-Man. But now we're going to move to a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars. That's a topic that Steve and I could always rant and rave about, so buckle up. We might be here for a little bit. We are talking about a quote from director extraordinaire Robert Rodriguez today. He's talking about the Book of Boba Fett, the show on Disney Plus that we are getting in December. Now this, I guess I had forgotten that Robert Rodriguez was executive producing this show. and kind of had a big hand in it. I knew that he was going to direct a couple episodes, but I knew he directed the return of Boba Fett in The Mandalorian. But I didn't know that he was going to be so involved, or I feel like I must have known at some point and forgotten. But I was very excited when I was reminded that he's going to be the executive producer of the Book of Boba Fett. He was asked about it, and he had this to say. He said, "I can't say anything about it at all right now, but it's coming out in December. Wait until you see what's coming. It's going to blow your mind. That's all I can say. I can talk it up all I want because I know it over-delivers. It way over-delivers. People are going to be so pumped when they see it." So, Steve, you read a quote like this from a incredibly capable action director and Star Wars enthusiast, Robert Rodriguez. What does it got you feeling? What do you think that he's talking about?
I have no idea, but I'm excited. It's one of those where, you know, Rodriguez, his catalog is anything from Spy Kids to From Dusk Till Dawn to Machete to wherever you want to go along the spectrum. So it's not like we can really typecast exactly what he wants to do. But I wonder if I would be curious after the fact if we ever find out whether he got this spin-off for Book of Boba Fett because he worked on episode 6 of Mandalorian, and like because he worked with the Fennec Shand character and all that, and he was like, oh, I want that spin-off, or if they had him work that episode because he had already gotten the spin-off. So it'd almost be more intriguing to me if he directed that episode and then was like, I really like this sandbox. Can I go play in it?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's immensely talented when it comes to world building and anything along those lines. So I'm very excited. The fact that he's saying it over delivers is like, I don't know if I've ever read any press junkets from his like promotional tours or anything for his own stuff, but for a director to literally come out for something that might be as controversial as anything with the Star Wars tag on it to fandom, and say, listen, shut up, this is going to be really, really good.
I know.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
Yeah, like you're either shooting yourself in the foot or you 100% know that you are crushing it.
Right.
And, you know, from the guy that directs action like he does in Desperado or Once Upon a Time in Mexico or Sin City. First time I saw Once Upon a Time in Mexico, it's an insane movie, crazy action. Same with Desperado, same with Sin City. If you told me that Robert Rodriguez 10 years ago, if you told me that after I saw any of those movies that he was directing a Star Wars anything, my mind would have been blown. And it still kind of is now, knowing that he's actually doing this. Steve, what do you think, since we're talking about this show, we haven't talked about it too much because there's not much to talk about. We don't know anything about it. Why do you think it's called The Book of Boba Fett? It's not just called Boba Fett, like Mandalorian or Obi-Wan or Lando or whatever all these other shows are. Ahsoka. Yeah. You know, it's called The Book of Boba Fett. Why do you think it's called The Book of Boba Fett?
I'm curious, and it may or may not have anything to do with it, but I would assume we find out what in the hell he was doing for the last 20 years. So, or however, whatever it is, it's whatever. Last couple of years. Yeah. My timelines are all sorts of screwed, but it might be, you know, we're literally getting his memoirs of like, this is what I did and this is where I was and how we got from the Sarlacc pit to here.
Dude, that is exactly what I think it is too. That is exactly what I think. I think it's going to be him telling stories, whether he's talking to Fennec or other people in Jabba's palace, which we know that he now rules over. I think it's going to be him telling stories of his past.
Yep.
Whether that is pre-Sarlacc pit, post-Sarlacc pit, they're kind of in a good place because similar to Mandalorian, they don't have to have that guy in the suit all the time. It can be a younger guy that looks like, you know, has the build of the guy that played him in Empire. with the full suit on, like Pedro Pascal isn't in that Mandalorian suit all the time. We already know that. He does all the voice work, but he's not always the one that's in the suit all the time. He shows up when they have to take the mask off and, some other pivotal scenes sometimes if he's available.
And Jeremy Bullock in 1980. Most of the time. Yeah, Jeremy Bullock in 1980 and Tamara Morrison in 2001, they weren't the same build. They weren't the same person.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
Tamara
gap
Morrison.
in there.
Yeah, Tamara Morrison is obviously he's a lot older, and he's a little bit stockier than the guy from you just said his name and I
Jeremy Bullock.
Jeremy Bullock, yeah. But they could get anybody.
Yeah.
To put the mask on and have Tamara Morrison do the voice, and they can tell stories from 20 years ago in the Star Wars universe if they want to. And I think one of the ones that we're definitely going to get is how he got out of that Sarlacc pit and how he lost his armor and how it ended up with that sheriff character from first episode of season 2. I think they're definitely going to tell that story, but I would love if they told more stories like that. I would love if they told before he gets contracted to find Han Solo, like what was he doing? He could be, right. Dave Filoni is the chief creative guy for Lucasfilm, and we saw young Boba Fett in a few episodes of Clone Wars and a few episodes of Rebels, I think. So he's already told us a little bit of what young, teenager Boba Fett was doing. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find out more about what he was doing in his 20s, in his 30s, in his 40s. When did he get that? I guess that is the helmet his dad's? Is that, were you supposed to think that the Boba Fett helmet is Jango Fett's helmet repainted?
I think that was I think it was supposed to be a different helmet.
Okay. So, like, how does he get that Mandalorian armor in the first place if he's not an actual Mandalorian? Right. Like, all that stuff, like, we might learn all that.
Yeah, he definitely didn't have it in Clone Wars, so...
yeah, exactly.
And that's, one of my favorite pieces of the old Legends continuity was stuff, like, they were shorts that were done by a bunch of different authors that were compiled in what they called, Tales from the Bounty Hunters, Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, Tales from the New Republic. And to do something of that style as a serial would be just like Tales of the Bounty Hunters being done as a serial under the Book of Boba Fett would just be awesome. It was just shorts on like, hey, 4-LOM and Zuckuss went and took this job here, and they did something stupid, and IG-88's over here doing this, and like to do that, but all Boba Fett as like this serial. It just seems like a great concept and something they could actually run with.
Yeah. I do feel like they are going to have to show us some main timeline stuff.
Yep.
Because I think they've said before that it does deal with characters and timeline of the Mandalorian. Yep. So I think we probably will see him, being a crime lord running Jabba's palace on Tatooine. But I don't know. Because it's called a book, I feel like we're going to be hearing stories from his past, and I'm excited about that. I don't know. I'm also excited about, you and I talked about this a little bit earlier, this past week on Disney Plus. We also got a behind-the-scenes look at how they made the final episode of Mandalorian Season 2. Spoilers, if you haven't watched Mandalorian Season 2, it's been not quite a year, but it's been a long time. And if you're a Star Wars person that hasn't watched the Mandalorian Season 2, there's no way that you haven't heard this already. The return of, spoiler, Luke Skywalker, done by a seemingly mix of deep fake and de-aging and stand-in. There's a whole bunch of technology that they used to do that. And watching that episode of that behind the scenes, I loved it. You should all check it out if you're at all interested in that. It's definitely worth watching. It's super cool. And it made me want them to make a young Luke Skywalker show now that they have this technology. As long as you get Mark Hamill on board in some capacity, I would love them to do a young Luke Skywalker show, and we see the adventures that he has either with Grogu or just on his own after Return of the Jedi, how he sets up the Jedi Temple, get us right up until, Kylo Ren destroys that thing.
Right.
That would be great. And I think it would be cool if they framed it similarly to how you and I are thinking they might frame Boba Fett, if they did a thing where maybe it's old Luke as Mark Hamill as old Luke telling stories to Rey on Ahch-To or something, while she's there, or something, something like that. It's like when I was
crazy Jedi Master goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in my day.
Episode. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and then like you get those two actors for like a day, and you just film the beginning and the ends of all 8 episodes or whatever, and then you use the stand-ins and the deep fakes and the voice analyzers or whatever that they use to bring that guy back, to do all the adventure stuff in the middle. I think that would be great. And I don't know. Who knows if they're going to do that, but I think it's crazy that with the success of the end of Mandalorian Season 2, someone at Lucasfilm is trying to figure out a way to make a Luke Skywalker show, I feel like, right now, because it would just be the most popular thing ever. But anyway, that's what I think. Any other thoughts on Book of Boba Fett or Star Wars Disney Plus shows at all? I mean, obviously, we could talk Star Wars for a long time, but...
Right, exactly. But we should probably move on into something else we can talk way too much about for way too long.
Into something, that we were already talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So...
All right, moving into Marvel. Marvel, not, MCU adjacent Marvel, I should say. For a long time, Sony... was calling their, for those people who don't know, I'm trying to preface things for the more green listeners out there, or the people that aren't quite as entrenched in the world's the news as we are. Marvel Comics sold the rights to Spider-Man in the
90s,
late 80s, early 90s or something like that. In the early 90s, Marvel as a company was about to go bankrupt. They had no money. Nobody was buying their books. They were running out of money, so they started selling off the rights to their characters. If someone wanted to make a TV show or a movie or blah, 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 here, we need the money. So Sony bought all of the rights to Spider-Man and all of his world, his character, his villains, his allies, his friends, all that stuff.
So have
Sony
the Spider-Verse.
owns the rights to Spider-Man and his entire world, yes. When the MCU got rolling, was off to a great start. People at Disney, at Marvel, wanted to figure out a way to get Spider-Man to interact with their characters. Thankfully, they worked out a deal where they could share the character of Spider-Man. So any more recent Spider-Man movie that we've seen starring Tom Holland is actually a Sony movie. It's not a Disney movie. It's not a Marvel movie. It is a Sony-produced movie that Marvel helped them make, basically. So Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home. They re-sign a contract every once in a while so Tom Holland can appear. But Sony still owns, exclusively, all of those other characters. I mean, clearly they share Aunt May or whatever villain they end up to be in those movies as well. But there's a lot of Spider-Man characters that are just being held on at Sony. Characters like Venom, character like Morbius the Living Vampire, these Kraven the Hunter. These are movies that have been made or have been announced by Sony that they are making Spider-Man character. They're giving movies to Spider-Man characters, but they're not using Spider-Man in them. Lord knows why they're not putting Spider-Man in them. They own Spider-Man. Must be some part of the deal with Disney.
If you have listened to us at all, this is a pet peeve of both of ours.
Yes. This is why we can talk about it so much. If you're making a movie about a Spider-Man villain, you should probably put Spider-Man in it, especially if it's somebody like Venom, who literally shouldn't exist without Spider-Man being involved. Anyway, I'm going to say that till I'm blue in the face, man. Nothing's going to change. I don't know. It's one of those things I just gotta let go eventually. Like, yelling about the prequels or whatever. You just got to be like, okay, I still love you. I'm just going to move on.
There's no nothing. Like, we haven't seen Black Suit. We haven't seen any of that. Now we've got...
I know, man.
Whatever.
It just makes no sense.
And now Carnage.
Anyway.
Oh, that was something that is an aside that just popped into my brain. Before we had talked about when we were doing the trailer for Let There Be Carnage, we talked about Scream being in it. Apparently that has been confirmed as not one of the symbiotes, but rather Shriek, who is a mutant, who was a...
really?
Yep. So apparently we're not getting Life Foundation. So... Unfortunately, because I would love to see the Life Foundation symbiotes in like modern CGI.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Anyway, Sony, when they announced this, okay, credit where credit is due. Sony also made Into the Spider-Verse, aforementioned one of the best superhero movies of all time. But anyway, when they started making Venom, when they started announcing Morbius the Living Vampire, Kraven the Hunter, they were referring to all these movies as Sony's Universe of Marvel characters. Not the catchiest title ever. It's no MCU. It's not even a DCEU, which is weird and hard to say. Sony's Universe of Marvel characters. This week, Sony announced that they are rebranding that universe to be called Sony's Spider-Man universe. Now, as we just talked about, Spider-Man's not in these movies. They made a Venom movie, no Spider-Man. They made a Venom sequel. It's going to come out in October, I think, right? They just got delayed it?
Yep. They pushed it to October.
No Spider-Man. They made a Morbius Living Vampire movie. In the trailer, he runs past a poster of Spider-Man, and he talks to Michael Keaton's Vulture, who was in a Spider-Man movie, but no Spider-Man that we know of. They're making a Kraven the Hunter movie, also a very popular Spider-Man villain. That we know of so far, no Spider-Man. But now they're calling this universe Sony's Spider-Man universe. Steve, does this mean we're going to get Spider-Man in one of these movies? Like, they can't call it that without giving a Spider-Man, right?
Right. It's kind of a no-brainer, I would think. But, we've seen dumber things.
No, it would have been a no-brainer to put Tom Holland in the first Venom movie as Peter Parker, at least. Like, give us something. Like, that would have been a no-brainer. But you already didn't do that. So why are you calling it? Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Keep talking.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know. Sony has a past track record of literally every other thing they've done besides Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2 were Sonified a little. It's just a funky situation they're in. Like
you're saying, like, interfering with filmmaking.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but like they've let movies breathe, like Into the Spider-Verse and the Raimi trilogy. For All the Faults of Spider-Man 3, like 1 was a good setup, 2 was a phenomenal movie, 3 was its whatever it was.
Lost its way.
The Garfield movies were Garfield movies. He existed. But
Andrew Garfield, not Garfield the cat.
Maybe both.
Unless you just took a huge right turn and started talking about Garfield the cat movies.
Yeah, we were in animation, so I just went straight Jim Davis, and we're hard right turn. But no, they Sony can do both things, and it's like it's almost like the same thing that Fox did with the X-Men properties, where you have some movies that were really good movies, and you have some movies that were really, really bad. Like, for every Logan, you have a Wolverine. And you're talking the same character, and you can somehow do this to it.
Yeah.
So, it'll be intriguing what they do with it, and I would have to think they have to bring Spider-Man in at some point, and maybe it's, just let him breathe in the multiverse until the multiversal stuff blows up and they go cosmic and they don't worry about the down-home, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man anymore. Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
Do you think this is going to be an outcome of No Way Home? We were talking about earlier when we were talking about multiverse movies, The Flash, Spider-Man, that we don't know how the events of those movies are going to change the universe that those movies are set in, the MCU, or like the DCEU, but in the case of the Spider-Man movies, it's not just the MCU, it's the MCU and the Sony verse, the Sony Spider-Man universe.
Right.
If I'm calling it the right thing. So, is it possible that No Way Home and or the Multiverse of Madness, whatever, because Spider-Man's going to be in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie. Is he? Wait, is he? Do we know that?
Wanda
is. I think I'm thinking that he's going to be in this one. I wouldn't know about Spider-Man being that one. Sorry. Is this going to introduce Spider-Man to the Sony Spider-Man universe? Whether it's Miles, whether it's... And what if Andrew Garfield just starts being Spider-Man again in the Sony universe, that could be... They could be setting us up for that, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hi, I'm Miles, but I'm not going to be in your universe. I'm going to go over here and fight Tom Hardy, who for no reason has a suit that looks exactly like a black version of my Spider-Man suit.
Yeah.
But it's never seen Spider-Man or touched a Spider-Man, so there's no reason for it to do that. There's no reason for it to sling webs like like Spider-Man does, because he's never met a Spider-Man, but he's doing it inexplicably. Sorry, I just can't stop being mad at that. It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh god.
So do you think that's a possibility that we're gonna get a Spider-Man for the Sony universe? And
I would be curious. I think we will at some point again, and I don't know if it'll be Tom Holland or if they go multiversal and say, oh yep, that's the one that works with the MCU stuff. Here's our new Spider-Man, just so that they can have something.
If they're gonna, I've said this before, but if they're gonna continue letting Tom Holland be Peter Parker in the MCU, they should introduce Miles and have Miles be the Spider-Man of their Spider-Man universe.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean,
insanely possible,
that way
or popular, awesome character that they can roll through all of their stuff with, that makes sense, that fits into all these gaps in making movies about villains left and right. So
and it's not confusing that you don't have like two different Peter Parkers and two different universes or whatever. You got Miles and Peter, two different characters, easy to keep them straight. Like it's crazy that we haven't had a live action Miles Morales announced by now anyway.
Hell, do a live action Ben Reilly, like something to set yourself apart.
Yeah. Anyway. So apparently we're supposed to call this Sony's Spider-Man universe, despite Spider-Man not being any of their movies so far. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a post-credit scene for Venom 2 or Morbius. When is Morbius coming out? Well, that was supposed to be out already and got delayed again, right?
Yeah, I think like February now or something. I thought I saw.
Jeez. So. My gosh. All right. Anyway, moving on. Next Spider-Man thing. Next Marvel thing. No more Spider-Man things. I'm sure we'll find a way to bring back ranting about Spider-Man. Marvel is also developing a Werewolf by Night Halloween special for Disney+. Now, okay, they didn't come out and say Werewolf by Night, I don't think. They said that they're developing a Halloween special for Disney+. But the characters that they're talking about are characters that turn into a werewolf in the title Werewolf by Night, which is like a horror comic that it was like a horror / superhero thing. Basically a werewolf guy that tried to be good, from what I know. I don't think I've ever read Werewolf by Night.
No, the other thing that made it basically seem like it was guaranteed to be Werewolf by Night was that they were looking for a male Latino lead, which the latest iteration is Jake Gomez? Something Gomez.
Okay.
But it like fits way too well for it to be Halloween based that needs a male Latino lead, and it's like, okay, it's gonna be Werewolf by Night, I'd assume.
And that's how we found out, because they announced a casting call for the lead of this that says it's shooting in 2022, so it's not gonna be out for this Halloween, hopefully next Halloween. And what I really like about this is that it's not just like, hey, let's make a Halloween special for Disney Plus, and it'll just be like the Avengers celebrating Halloween and telling ghost stories or something kind of lame like that. It's like, nah, let's take a character that we have that's actually scary and make a Halloween special.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if some other character or characters show up in it. Specifically, Moon Knight. Yeah, since we know that we're getting a Moon Knight series for Disney Plus starring Oscar Isaac, and we know that Moon Knight was introduced in the pages of Werewolf by Night. So they kind of have a little bit of a history, so wouldn't be surprised, I guess, depending on when Moon Knight, we don't know when Moon Knight's dropping, we know that they're working on it. So it's possible that we will see Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight in Werewolf by Night Halloween special. Whether or not that's going to be his debut or we will have already seen his show by then, we don't know, but I think that would be cool.
Wouldn't surprise me.
What's that? What's that?
I was going to just segue out and say things that do surprise me are that they are making a Matrix 4, because I still can't comprehend between that and Avatar, I still don't know why they're making sequels to them, but whatever.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so we're moving out of Marvel, we're moving into the world of miscellaneous. And we're talking about the Matrix 4, as they announced the official title of Matrix 4 is the Matrix Resurrections, which fits with the Reloaded, Revolutions, Resurrections, all the R words there. Steve, I was going to ask this of you. You seem maybe a little bit negative on it. Are you a big fan of the Matrix movies in general? Are you a Matrix guy?
You changed it all when you put an S on that. No,
movies.
I think they yeah, I don't know. The whole concept was great. The first movie was a masterpiece. After that, it kind of lost the plot a little. And by that I mean really lost the plot, especially by the third one. And I don't know. It's not something I'm looking forward to. Much like I mentioned Avatar. Like,
yeah,
we for those of you not in our friend group, there's a running joke that anything with the number 1 is just referred to as Avatar because that's how many times anybody saw the damn movie.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, why keep making them? Like, I get dipping back into it because people will look fondly on what they remember from The Matrix and be like, oh yeah, let's go see that. Oh, why'd I see that? So
yeah.
Yourself?
I would love to at some point cover Avatar on this show. It is like a nerdy fantasy kind of property. If there's ever any actual announcements of the 5 movies that they're making, we would love to cover it on this show. That the 5 movies that they've been making for 11 years now.
Something like that.
If we ever see a sign of one of those happening, Avatar is just a big bucket of who cares for me. And I think I do not think that you and I are alone in that. I don't know anyone that is excited about Avatar 2. Anyway, Matrix. I have a weird relationship with The Matrix where the first time I went to see The Matrix in the theater, no fault of the movie, total fault of myself, I fell asleep. And I fell asleep at a very pivotal, like right when I think I slept through where he goes to meet the Oracle and like learns the plot of the movie.
Right, that changes a lot if you don't see that part.
Yeah, so I woke up, I had no idea what was happening. I had no idea what was going on in the first part, and then I missed explanation, and then I didn't know what was happening at all at the end. So I have seen it several times since, and I like that movie quite a bit, but I did not have the, oh my god, this is the greatest, newest science fiction, fantasy, whatever, since Star Wars reaction to it because I fell asleep. And even when I rewatch it, it's like there's a weird barrier there because I once thought it didn't make sense. Like I can't fully get over that hump that I put myself in from falling asleep in the theater. I don't know that I've ever fallen asleep during another movie, and it's weird that it was The Matrix. But anyway, I saw the second one, I think, twice. I think I only saw the third one once. I remember really not liking the second one, but thinking the third one is kind of okay. But again, I only saw it once, and it was a long time ago, so I don't remember even what happened at the end of it.
No idea.
But I read something the other day that said that Neo and Trinity die at the end of the third one, which I don't remember.
No.
But would make sense that this is called Resurrections.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I'm excited for this because I don't know. I like that at least one of the original filmmakers is coming back. I think it's Lily Wachowski. I think it's Lana was the one that didn't come back. She said in an interview recently that she just felt like she didn't want to go backwards. She didn't, even though it was property that she loved, it was something that she didn't want to feel like she was retracing her steps creatively, and she wanted to just move forward and do other stuff. So understandable. But her sister has cracked the story and is directing it, wrote and directed it. So I think that bodes well for her. I mean, they also made 2 and 3, so who knows? But I don't know. I think time has gone by. Everyone loves Keanu Reeves. Hopefully, you know, the 20 years between films, you know, Lily Wachowski had a good enough idea that made her want to make this movie, and you got to think that if the idea wasn't good enough, then they wouldn't bother making it. So I'm excited. You know, I'm not tearing my hair out, setting my world on fire about it, but I'm excited, and I'm going to watch it, and who knows what it'll be like. Another miscellaneous series that I haven't seen any of, but I might, now that I've seen this trailer, is The Kingsman. And we got a new trailer for The Kingsman this week. It's based on Kingsman comic book by Mark Miller, drawn by Dave Gibbons. Did you watch this trailer? It was great.
I didn't. In all honesty, on the rundown, I lost it in the page turn. So I remember, like, I saw the first Kingsman, like, whatever the subtitle was, but the first one that came out, like, I remember watching that and liking it. So
I've heard that it's really great.
Yeah,
I've just never seen it.
Yeah, I never saw the sequel, and apparently this is a prequel to that. So we'll see where that comes out. But I'm all in for it. I just had never didn't even know it was coming out, and then as I'm scrolling down, I was like, oh yeah, probably should have watched that trailer that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it looks cool. It looks like they're bringing in historical figure Rasputin as a bad guy, and I think it seemed like they made him look as much like Alan Moore as humanly possible, just like huge, grizzly, long hair and beard. I don't know if that's like a shot at Alan Moore or whatever, or just
they have the same stylist. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know if that was Dave Gibbons was like, hey, make that dude look like Alan Moore. I grudge to settle with him. But it looked super cool. Rasputin, obviously, legend around that guy is that he could never die and was stabbed and shot and all this other stuff, and he survived. So I think they're playing into that a little bit, giving him maybe some superhuman nature or superhuman abilities. And again, I keep hearing that the first Kingsman is incredible, and here I am on a nerd podcast admitting that I haven't seen it. Yell at me all you want, and hopefully you yelling at me will make me watch it. So yeah, send us those emails and yell at me to watch it. Oh, also, hey, we're on Instagram now, so check us out on Instagram. Send me comments on Instagram telling me that I should watch it, and maybe I will.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's all right.
I don't know how to do the Instagram thing, so that's all you.
Okay.
I'm dating myself here.
Okay. If you're yelling at someone on Instagram about the Multiverse Report, it's going to be me, just so you know. If you're making comments on our YouTube video while you're watching this, it's going to be Steve. Okay? We're all clear. Steve and I both have access to the Facebook and Twitter, so that's going to be a grab bag, just so you guys know.
We'll just wing it.
Okay. Yeah. Moving into some one-shots. This is topics that came out this week. Small announcements we want to mention, but not necessarily enough to dig into. So we're going to start it off. Steve's going to kick it off with a video game announcement. Hit it, Steve.
So Marvel has announced Midnight Suns, which is a tactical RPG made by the same studio that did XCOM Enemy Within. Phenomenal game if you haven't played it. If you like turn-based strategy, check the XCOM series out. But also in March, Midnight Suns should be an interesting development. Although, I do have a bone to pick. It's based on Midnight Suns, which was the supernatural branch of Marvel, and for some reason we're seeing like Wolverine and a bunch of other normal characters in it, and really, like, give me Elsa Bloodstone and all that sort of thing.
So, yeah, but you got Blade, and there's Doctor Strange and Ghost Rider, and there's a bunch of like macabre kind of like characters. But yeah, Captain America is also in it. So
yeah, it looks like Robbie Ghost Rider too, which will be good. So
yeah. All right, we also got an announcement this week that The Old Guard is getting a sequel at Netflix. The Old Guard was a movie that came out based on the comic by Greg Rucka, illustrated by Leandro Fernandez, starring Charlize Theron, came out last year on Netflix. It was a huge success. Again, I didn't watch it, even though I heard it was great. But I'm excited that they're making a second one, because that gives me even more reason to watch the first one. New director replacing Gina Prince Blythewood is Victoria Mahoney. I think she might be writing it also. And Charlize Theron is expected to return to star in The Old Guard 2 on Netflix.
Nice. And continuing our reporting on random actors being injured on the sets of movies, it's not just Harrison Ford hurting himself. Apparently, Letitia Wright sustained minor injuries on the set of Black Panther 2. Per reports, she has received care and should be recovering soon. So it wasn't like falling out of a plane or crashing things or anything along those lines in the Harrison Ford pantheon.
Yeah, closing a door on your leg or something. Yeah. Turns out you don't have to be 84 to get injured on a movie set. All right, we found out that this week the Flash Season 8 premiere on the CW is going to serve as kind of a typical CW crossover event. They were not able to do a crossover event. All those CW shows, they usually do one once a year. They weren't able to do last year because of COVID. They were keeping all their sets safe and sanitary and not mixing and matching actors and things like that. So, but there's going to be a 5-part story of the premiere of season 8 of The Flash. It's going to feature obviously The Flash, but also Batwoman, Black Lightning, the new Green Arrow, Ryan Choi, Reverse Flash, Damian Dark, and also the return of Brandon Routh as the Atom. Part 1 airs November 16th. These are a lot of shows that I used to watch, all of them as much as I could, and then there just were so many and so many episodes, and I just couldn't do it. I just had to give up. I like a lot of them. The crossovers are always really cool. It could easily be argued that some of them are better Justice League movies than the Justice League movie that we got. So yeah, check out season premiere of The Flash, airs November 16th, and back to Steve with our last one shot and our last mention of Brandon Routh.
Yeah, so Brandon Routh, the aforementioned, is now signed on to star as Gideon Jura, well, the voice of Gideon Jura in Netflix's Magic the Gathering series. So while the Russos are taking off, they are getting some solid talent in to at least voice one of the 2 main planeswalkers in the story, which is supposedly centered around Gideon Jura and Jace Beleren. So we'll see where that goes and more as that develops.
Do you think sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the Flash season 8 premiere, apparently by what you said, is doing exactly what all these comic companies want these crossover events to do, and kind of reel you back in a little.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Come back for the big explosive crossover event. Stay for the rest of the season. Yeah, absolutely. Do you think? I mean, the Brandon Routh in Magic the Gathering. Last week we covered the fact that the Russo brothers, famed writer-director Russo brothers. I guess they weren't writers on the Captain America movies, but directors of a few of the Captain America movies, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War. Russo brothers were signed on to executive produce the Magic show, and they left with the showrunners as well. Do you think this is like, oh, we need a positive story now that we need people to know that this series is going to be cool, so let's tell them that Brandon Routh is in it.
Right.
To cover, I feel like it came out just on the heels of the Russo brothers leaving to be like, we need some good PR. Let's tell them who's in it.
Right, like we had our first story on this series last week about them leaving. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I play Magic the Gathering. I've actually, followed some of the lore of it. Had no idea they were even making this series.
Oh, really? I remember when they announced because it was a big deal that the Russos were a part of it, but I hadn't heard anything about it until the Russos weren't a part of it anymore, and now all of a sudden we get a second announcement. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, here's to save face, a small nugget of information. So, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, all right. As we do most weeks, we are going to end talking about comic books, the source of so much of this wonderful stuff that we love in TV and movies. Usually every other week, we do a Kickstarter call out. I tweeted out earlier today if anyone had a cool Kickstarter that they wanted us to shout out on the show. Didn't get one response. So therefore, we're not doing one this week. We didn't do one last week. I guess I didn't have time to look up Kickstarter stuff myself. Apologize for that. We'll bring it back next week. But in the meantime, if you are out there and you have a cool Kickstarter project that is currently launched and you are trying to get funding to produce your comic book, let us know via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We will talk about it on the show and give you a shout out and direct people to give you money for your project. Anyway, some actual comics news. A couple weeks ago, when we reported on the entire Substack thing, big creators leaving DC and Marvel to go to a newsletter service called Substack that is going to supply subscribers with direct digital comic book content. One of those people leaving DC was James Tynion IV, famed writer of Batman, currently. Wonderful writer. Big fans of him on here on the Multiverse Report. So we know now that he was leaving the Batman title in November. And, DC needs somebody writing Batman because he's like the #1 draw for DC right now. So who is it going to be? Who is it going to be? Lots of rumors flying around. Turns out Joshua Williamson has been announced as the new writer of Batman, and Jorge Molina will be on art. He's going to be telling stories about Bruce Wayne post-Gotham. As we learned at the end of James Tynion's run, Bruce Wayne will be leaving Gotham City, and there will be kind of, not a fight, but, Batman's wealth of sidekicks and partners kind of figuring out is there gonna be a new Batman or who's gonna take the place of Batman in Gotham City. But Bruce Wayne isn't going anywhere, and the main monthly Batman title is going to still focus on Bruce Wayne, just outside of the Gotham City limits. And there's also a new design to his suit. Looks like they're bringing back the yellow oval around the bat, which has been gone for quite some time. I'm excited about that. Looks really good. Williamson has written big arcs on the Flash. He's also written the Robin book. Jorge Molina has drawn Spider-Man. He was a big artist on the Spider-Geddon crossover from a couple years ago. X-Men, he's also drawn Birds of Prey. So that is a exciting combination of people for an exciting book. Steve, I know you're a Marvel guy. Any chance that a new writer, a new jumping on point for Batman might suck you in to the Batman books?
Yeah, in all honesty, I think it might. Strictly, I don't know anything about Joshua Williamson, but Molina's art is always phenomenal.
Yeah.
I know he did the run, like, the covers for Spider-Gwen, like the recent run of Ghost Spider. He did a bunch of covers for that. He's done, he worked on X-Books for a good while. He'd be one that at least will intrigue me to check it out. If I can look at it and it's pretty, I'm in.
Yeah. It's also, I think it serves as a pretty great jumping on point, because not only is it a new writer or not only is it a new creative team, the character's going to be in a new location. It's going to be outside of Gotham City, seemingly away from all the lore and mythology that one has to know a little bit about in general when diving into a character's book. So this might serve as a good jumping on point for a lot of people. If the books get delivered on time. Our other story here for comics is that, let's see, a guy named Ryan Higgins, who is a local comic book store owner, not local around here, but I follow him on Twitter. He posted something that he received from, I assume, from DC or whoever ships DC comic books, saying that they should be prepared for delays due to COVID-19 shutdowns. That DC, sorry, I'm just going to read the statement. It says, DC faces an unprecedented strain on the global supply chain affecting all of us in the comics industry and beyond. It goes on to mention notifications about COVID-related port closures, international and domestic freight delays, workforce shortages, and a severely allocated paper supply. We are unable to continue to manage the situation without disruption. So a lot of DC's books that we thought we were going to get in August or early September are getting bumped to either early September or late September. Just like looking right now, it's kind of bumping things only like a couple weeks. So it's not going to be, a week or two. So it's not going to be huge delays. We're not going to go months without getting any DC comic books.
Right. We're not talking March of last year, when everything was shut down for 2-3 months. Yeah, exactly.
And this guy Ryan Higgins also said prepare to get other statement, either if not statements, prepare this to become something standard with all companies. This is not just a DC thing. This is going to be something that affects the entire industry. So if you are wondering why your new issue of whatever isn't in the store when you thought it was going to be, that's your reason why. Now you know. So that's a bummer. And I've definitely had it recently. This is something that's already kind of happening. I don't know if you've seen this, Steve, where I go to pick up my pull list at my comic book store and something's not in there. And I'm saying, where is it? Oh, well, the shipment was delayed. We're not going to get it till tomorrow. Or we were short. We only got half of what we were supposed to get, so it's going to come next week or whatever.
Right.
So I'm already experiencing it. I don't know if you've...
I haven't done any of my books, but I know, like, talking to the guys at the shop, it was, it definitely, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is happening. All right, coming up this week in comics, we got a big Aquaman week. We got Aquaman's 80th anniversary celebration. DC's been doing this when all their characters start hitting their 80th anniversaries, starting a few years ago when Superman and then Batman, Wonder Woman. Got a Robin one. I think Flash so far, you know, and now Aquaman has his turn. 80th anniversary. It's going to be just a bunch of different stories in one kind of like maxi issue, written by different creators. And these have been all super fun. I think I've gotten all of them so far that have come out. I don't know, the talent on it is always cool, and it's always cool to read an anthology book devoted to one character, because you get to see people telling stories in different eras of that character's life, or different versions of that character can be brought back, and it's really cool. We also get Aquaman The Becoming #1, how the current Aqua lad will be start his journey to actually becoming the new Aquaman. We get Batman Fear State Alpha #1. This is the start of a big DC crossover event, Fear State, that's heading into October, and the end of James Tynion's run. This is Scarecrow taking over Gotham City. We get Tom Taylor's Dark Ages 1. Tom Taylor's kind of outside of main continuity Marvel book. We don't really know a lot about it. We know probably people are going to die, and there's going to be a lot of weirdness going on in Dark Ages #1. Plus, Tom Taylor's a great writer anyway. We get Harley Quinn annual. Harley Quinn's getting an annual. Her current run has been very lauded and awesome, so it's cool that that character is getting an annual #1. We also get 2 omnibuses coming out this week. The original series of What If, Marvel's What If. Currently, you can see an animated version of some of those stories on Disney Plus. We're getting a series omnibus released this week, and another Marvel omnibus, the entire run of Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's X-Men from the early 90s. Going to be humongous, or I can't imagine that it's just a full omnibus, or is it going to be Omnibus Volume 1? I feel like it can't possibly be the entire run.
It's got to be Volume 1, because my God, that thing would take up my whole bookshelf.
That would be enormous.
Like,
so,
actually,
Steve,
I have the Days of Future Past over there, and it's like this thick on itself, and that's just one run.
Yeah, it's going to be gigantic. So besides that, Steve, any of these books jump out at you? Anything that you're looking to pick up this week at your local comic book store?
No, I'm going to keep standing the Star Wars High Republic series. Issue 9 comes out this week. Awesome. That's been on my pull. It's been a hell of a run. Whole new setting for Star Wars, which is great to see them in their own sandbox instead of playing, trying to fit everything into existing continuity.
Is there a trade out of any of those yet? I feel like I want to jump into that.
No, but as soon as it comes out, I'll let you borrow it, because I missed the first couple of issues, so I haven't been pulling floppies until 7, nice. Which was the first after the...
cool. First arc.
Yep. So I had gotten it digitally. Like now Unlimited is caught up. So I had pre-ordered the book, so I've read them, and now I'll have the physical copy, so I'll let you borrow that whenever that comes in.
Nice. Can't wait. Yeah, I want to dive into that. I hear great things about it. So yeah, Fear State. That's gonna be cool, because I don't know, James Tynion's been writing a really terrifying Scarecrow. I'm excited to see what Dark Ages even is. There hasn't been a ton of, I mean, really. Maybe there was, and I'm just not looking for it or whatever plot about that. I'm not sure what that's even about, but I'll read.
Zeb Wells' run on Hellions is continuing too. If any of the X books,
that's right.
The weird ass X book where it's it's like, it's not Suicide Squad, but it's kind of Suicide Squad of like these mutants that are just the misfits, and it's really, and for some reason Psylocke and Havoc have to keep them together, so
keep them in line.
And Mr. Sinister is the leader of everything, which is just amazingly absurd. Which I'm in.
Okay, it's X-Men. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I saw that. I should have put it on the list. I don't know why I left it off the rundown, but other than that, that is all I got, Steve. If you got anything else, or I think we can wrap this up.
No, I think that sounds like a week.
All right, cool, man. What do we, should we tell them to, like, subscribe?
Probably.
Okay.
I should do that whole thing, huh? I was already past that in
I don't do that. You got the patter down. I don't know that. I was thrown to you.
Yeah, you can tell it's late night. So in that case, thank you all for listening. If you'd like, or if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, ring that bell to make sure you know when we go live. If you're listening on a podcast, review us in your podcaster of choice. Any reviews, any 5-star reviews, whatever, it's all appreciated. Helps in the algorithms. Leave us an actual review, like words, and we will forever be in your debt. We've gotten a number of star reviews, but they don't bump it as much as somebody writing kind words. So if you want to send us an email, themultiversereport@gmail.com. Catch us on Twitter at multiverserpt, Facebook, Instagram, the Multiverse Report, and check out themultiversereport.com for all of your streaming and or podcasting needs.
We got everything.
We do.
You can find us anywhere. We're all over the place. We're inevitable.
Yeah, I don't think we do the TikToks, but I'm definitely not dancing on milk crates for the Multiverse Report.
Not yet. Not yet, anyway.
Well, you never know.
We'll see what next week will bring. Maybe it'll be slow news week, and we gotta spice it up somehow.
Oh God, I can only wait.
All right. Well, hey everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time in the multiverse.